Chair Lawson,
Here.
Vice Chair Haslam,
Here.
Director Jacobs,
Here.
Director Skinner.
Here.
The next on the agenda is the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father God, thank you for safely gathering us here tonight. Father, I would like to just ask peace over the families who recently lost loved ones in the floods in Texas. We ask you to revive that situation, protect us in the upcoming weather season. We hope for a good, solid meeting tonight with everyone listening and liking and being friendly with each other. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. To remind you, this includes the consent along with the regular agenda items.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as it is written, including the consent agenda items.
I will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Public comment.
Mr. Chair, Jim Carnes, as of March, I thank you for informing the public of the number of meters disconnected due to non-payment. And I'd like to give you these numbers, sir. 91 a day going up to the month before March, 115 a day the month before April, 101 per day before May, 71 a day, and 105 a day. Thousands of meters are being disconnected because people are unable to pay their bundled, juiced, and onerous bill that's nowhere near the middle of the pack. To call these bills the middle of the pack is a bald lie. I would ask for you to immediately explore what we can do about this problem. This metric is way beyond anything I've ever seen. I've been watching this for over a decade, sir. There's many policies you can introduce that's revenue neutral, that will keep people being pushed off the grid indefinitely. I went to the Copeland settlement, walked into a home, middle-aged woman, 2 developmentally disabled adult children, the daughter's holding a baby. There's an extension cord over to the neighbor's house. There's a well. No running water, no lights, no refrigeration. Berlarski knows about it. He doesn't care. This must be addressed as the disaster it is. Thank you.
Seeing as how no other public comments, back to the board for discussion of acceptance of the agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the GRUA board meeting of June 11th, 2025.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes. Public comment. Seeing how there's no public comment, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the chair comments.
I have no comments this evening. Thank you.
Next is general public comment. These are for items that are not on the agenda, and each speaker has 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, Angela Castile. I'd like to play something for you guys. It's approximately 3 minutes. So if you need me to
Mr.
explain
Banks, can you
later.
identify what this document is? Okay. Can you please share why your name isn't on the final agreement?
I asked my staff member to take my name off of it.
Why is that? I didn't necessarily agree on the way that the city had come about the financial compensation for services, nor the actual the way they derived, the way they received services. I thought that there was a huge discrepancy, and frankly, I thought that there was a better way to do it. Okay. Is it true that the GRU IT department services more than 67 City of Gainesville locations and roughly 9 to 11 GRU locations? Roughly, yeah. Okay, so it's a fair statement. On page 22, can you go ahead and everyone flip to page 2? No, I have some figures circled there. Fiscal year 23, 24. Your recommendation through this process is that we should be billing the city of Gainesville $5.9 million per year. Is that correct? That was our proposal, correct? That was the proposal. Can you tell me why that isn't the case for fiscal year 23, 24, and 25? To the tune of, it's been discounted almost $9 million to the city of Gainesville? Is that why your signature is not on this? Because it's not correct? Yes, that's correct. That's correct. You had concerns. What were your concerns? That due to our financial condition, I'm not the financial person, but I thought that we were giving away a lot of monies that we were collecting for services that were delivered. You wanted a part of it, so you took your signature off of it because it's not accurate. Is that correct? Yes.
Chief Financial Officer.
Have you experienced and seen similar behaviors from Mr. Cunningham that have been described here today? I can imagine.
Yeah, so when you look at something like this and you're looking at HB 1645, SLA-related losses are supposed to be included in the flow of funds in the budget process. So I will tell you that this loss is not included in the flow of funds for the budget process for 2024. So as of right now, I've got serious concerns about that. So because that impacts my area, and so I have to kind of think that through.
So you're the CFO, yes, GRU. And
Thank you, Ms. Castillo. Thank you.
The final agreement between the city.
Mr. Chair, Jim Conish, on my website, ypagegrumore.com, I have the full 50-minute video where it was revealed, sir, that Mr. Cunningham apparently had falsified the full cost allocation reports, a practice that was discovered by the Auditor General of the State of Florida going back to 17 and 18 before Mr. Bilarski was fired. And this discrepancy was not included in the flow of funds, was not included in the financial statements, is a SLA loss. And I want to read your oath. You're the only one up there that could even understand it. I do solemnly swear that I will support, honor, and protect and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida. The state of Florida has imposed upon you the obligation to faithfully perform the duties of a member of the Gainesville Regional Utilities Authority. And you have sworn to do that, sir. First of all, in HB 45, the flow of funds are defined as the SLA losses, and it requires that the SLA losses be that are identified, that Mr. Bilarski writes letters to the editor about, the solar feed-in tariff, the IT, all that. They're identified, but they're not included in the flow of funds, and they're not stated in financial statements, and that is a fraud, sir. And you are a party, and these other appointees are a party to this fraud. So you have violated your oath, sir. But that's just one example, sir. There's another one that talks about when you're appointed to complete a term, your term ends at the end of the term that you are replacing someone. Carter just flipped us off on that and sat there with no authority, with no comment from their fellow members. Again, flaunting your oath. Mr. Walker gave you a different opinion. He has to say that. He's here to defend whatever you do, right or wrong. That's his obligation. I rarely disagree with Mr. Walker about anything. So it goes on even worse, sir, because you're also supposed to make sure that you're focused on the pecuniary interests of the ratepayers, the financial health of the utility, and getting rid of everything based on political, social, and other ideological concerns, and you don't do that at all, sir. You maintain all the past practices that has run this utility into the ditch for whatever reason. And you're breaching your oath. And should this ever receive the proper investigation, sir, I think not only Mr. Bolarski, but you all could be in trouble, because you're participating in the falsification of official records of financial statements that people are relying on, sir. And you're an accountant, and
That's your time.
Bolarski's accountant, and the CFO's accountant.
That's his time.
Thank you.
Everyone understood that.
Good evening, Chuck Ross. So, my first question. Why is the GRU authority objecting to an expedited appeal and drawing out the process to receive an opinion from the court? The only person besides the attorneys who stands to benefit is the general manager, Bolarski. By prolonging the appeals process, Bolarski can continue to accrue benefits and receive his monthly salary of approximately $27,000 plus benefits. In the meantime, General Manager Bolarski is appeasing the customers of GRU by not raising the rates. Further, he is not addressing the 111 megawatts that will come offline in less than 2 years, thus putting in jeopardy GRU's future power generation. The GM plays the fiddle while GRU burns. The authority needs to address this with General Manager Bolarski, and the public needs to hear the answer. In connection with this, what I just mentioned is I keep bringing up the IRP, which was never finished. And the last time the answer we heard was, it is what it is. What it is incomplete, because the person that was going to bring the rest of the IRP was fired by Mr. Bolarski, and it never was completed. In that, we were going to hear how they're going to take on, I believe it's CT1, CT2, and DH1, which that's your 111 megawatts. So I haven't heard that. I don't believe the board has heard that. You need to ask these questions. I asked another question related to this. Well, not related to that. It's related to the biomass plant. He has the biomass plant is listed at $42 per megawatt hour, if I was reading it correctly. And my understanding was it wasn't being run at optimum capacity. So if it's run at optimum capacity, if that makes sense, what would the megawatt hours cost be then? The termination agreement with TEA. So we had a long-standing agreement, I believe it was close to 25 years with TEA. We have a task order that was brought to the board last month, which the board approved. And it was mentioned in the presentation that we're paying $91,000, but we were paying, I believe it was 130 some odd thousand. And I'd like to hear what it was that we were paying for that we weren't using and why. Because that was going on for a while the general manager was in charge before he was originally terminated. And I have 10 seconds. I would like to hear more about the rate stabilization fund. I looked up the Orlando Utilities, how they calculate it, and GRU does not calculate it the same way. And I have a lot of questions. I have questions about how it's done, that's all. Thank you.
Seeing how there's no more public comment, Ed, would you like to respond to any of the comments? Sometimes you'd like to clarify.
Yeah, I'll
Give that
have some
opportunity.
clarifications under my comments. I'll just reiterate the fact that the IRP was finished. It's a document that's out there, and we're following it. We're working towards the real-life actions that are necessary to follow the plan. The IRP is a plan. So we've had numerous discussions with suppliers, generators, other folks that may be able to fit the bill for us moving down the road. But this idea that 110 megawatts will just miraculously come offline isn't the case. And I think I've made it pretty clear to the board that we have excellent staff, we have great support. These people are keeping these units running efficiently, effectively. And I think Tom has, on several occasions, when we talked about the state of the utility, talked about most of these plants have almost been replaced from top to finish. You know, they're man's creation, and they can be renewed through man's innovation, and that's what we're doing. So there's no miraculous loss of 110 megawatts in 2 years. I've said that over and over. The IRP is finished. The idea that any one plant will be at a set point where they operate most efficiently is just a fallacy. We've said on numerous occasions that the size of our plants and the way they operate in the system is rather chunky. You know, if we were to have a plain sheet of paper, we would have drawn it up a lot differently. But what happens over time is these plants are built based on the best of intentions, and they wouldn't be the ones that you would have today. But you run them the way the system needs it so that you can provide reliable power. So none of them in and of themselves can be as reliable as they would be if you had this huge system that just ran everything at a particular time. So, you know, what I hear there is just another way to say, well, see, you're not running DHR the way it was supposed to be, or this or that. And this is all demanded by the system. It's demanded by the effectiveness of our and reliability of our system. So again, that's just not the case. So
Ed, on the disconnects, that number that is reported, does that include relocations and people moving out of the community?
hey, if you want, I can go right to relocations right now, or I can go to CEO comments, because I thought this might come up again, because that's been, there's a rhythm to disconnects being discussed right now. And I can show the board that it's right within the sweet spot of our other peer groups.
I have something. So after COVID and all this stuff, a lot of people went through a lot of things. I personally had my electric shut off due to non-payment, personally. So what did we do? We called GRU and said, hey, we non-payment, tried to blame it on GRU, is what we tried to do first, like everybody does. It's your fault. Well, no, it's our fault for not paying it, right? So first, this happened to us. So I couldn't come up with a lump sum because I hadn't paid for a couple of months, and I have a big house, and it was a couple of $1,000s. So at the time it was Kanzan, he put me on a payment plan. He put me back on. They put me back on that day. It wasn't like I was going to be out there with no way. The fact that people are out there with no way is, number one, that's a lie. That's just not true. GRU is going to turn you back on. You have to, yes, you might have to talk to someone. You might have to go back through. You're not going to be left out in the streets with no electricity. That is just fundamentally untrue in my opinion, because it's happened to me personally for non-payment. That was part of the reason I joined this board, because I thought something funny was going on. It's not. You have to communicate with the staff, and they will take care of you. This excellent staff will take care of you. May not be what you want to hear when you owe money, but unfortunately, if you use something, you have to pay for it. That's just all there is to it. Now, I understand that it is somewhat expensive. That's something we've been trying to come down, but we're working with 20 years of abuse and only a year or two of trying to fix it, to make it come down. So sorry that it is still expensive for some people, myself included, but we're working on that.
Thanks, David.
You're welcome.
Ed, anything else before we go to? Okay, thanks. Director, comments?
Yes. I'd like to address Mr. Conish's comments, and I get so many people I think are CPAs or I get it, your money guys with numbers and stuff like that, but you got to know that all our books and everything are looked at by many eyes, including auditors and other persons, SEC, banks, investors. I get it, you don't like the way that some of the accounting's done, or you don't think it's done the way you would do it. But it is what it is right now. That's the way the books are done. If you have a question about fraud, or you think there's some law being broken, then I would request you take that to the appropriate law enforcement agency and give them what information you have. Coming here and explaining that to us doesn't do any good if you have some sort of evidence. So I would suggest you take that route instead of complaining about the auditing practices, like I said, or the accounting practices. That's the way the books are being done here, and Mr. Burlesque is very transparent about it. Also, so far as liability goes, Mr. Ross's comments, the work that Ed's done to reduce the budget and get the debt down, that is what's gonna help our future. If we didn't have the liquidity we have now, we wouldn't have any money to make repairs if something breaks in the future. If this was still under the city commission, they'd still be taking millions of dollars out of the kitties, and when something breaks, then the whole system would implode. Now, we're in a safe place, as reflected by our bond ratings and liquidity, where we can handle contingencies that come up to make sure that we provide the best power and water to our citizens in the state and the country, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right. So, there's a book called the Book of James that some of you should read, and in there it says you should be slow to speak, quick to listen, and slow to anger. However, Mr. Cornish, when you insult us every single time because you're behind that lectern, I think you think it gives you a right. It's not okay. I mean, you're being rude for no reason. Usually you're wrong, and I think everybody knows that. Sometimes you're lying. I'm not sure if you know that. And if you were the great champion of GRU that you say you were, you would have got picked for this board one of the 2 times you applied, but you didn't. So I appreciate you.
Mr. Skinner?
Didn't have any further comment.
The next item on the agenda is the CEO comments.
Well, that was quick. Let's see. What I did want to talk about, I shot information out to you folks about Moody's has come back and affirmed our AA3 rating, which is the equivalent of a double A minus. They affirmed our rating with a stable outlook. So they're kind of falling in the same footsteps as Fitch. And I think what we're seeing here is a picture's developing of what the rating agencies are thinking about. There's a duplication, redundancy of answers they're giving us. So what I wanted to focus on in discussing their rating and their analysis was, they said there's several ways in which we could be downgraded, and they all relate really to the debt. You know, they don't want to see a decline in our fixed obligation charges, coverage, our days cash outstanding, or have an inability to reduce our leverage. And the one I want to note is, they also said what can lead to a downgrade is more aggressive demands for transfers to the city's general fund. I mean, that's part of what the new referendum that was voted upon by the city commission explicitly does. It says that they will take the cap off the general fund transfer, the current limitation. So that's in direct violation of what Moody's is requesting and saying would lead to, a downgrade. So that's also what Fitch talked about. They like the plan that the board is bringing to the table. So again, second affirmation from 2 of the 3 rating agencies. That's all I had to say on that one. Let's see, what else? Oh, do you want to put the disconnects up, Tracy? Oh, there you go. Oh, boy, that got small. I did it this afternoon. So I'll just talk to you about it, unless, you want to walk like 5 feet in front of it or something. I thought this might come up about the disconnection rates because we've been talking about it for, several months at this point. So I actually found a site in Indiana University where the Justice Energy, what was it called? It was Utility Disconnections Dashboard, Energy Justice Lab, and they got information from across the country, and they had some places in Florida for 20 to 21. And they showed that JEA had a disconnection rate of 3.61%, Kissimmee was 1.66, Tallahassee was 2.92, and GRU is 1.15. So during this period of COVID and things like that, we were at the low end of the pack. We called around to see if we could get information from some of the same utilities. They're a peer group. And JEA didn't get back in time, nor did Tallahassee, but Orlando's at 2.3. GRU's at 2.3. Lakeland's at 1.19, doing a good job. Kissimmee's at 2.8. So what you're seeing here is there's a pattern that most utilities have to deal with. There's, hardship within communities that make it so that some people are on the edge, and disconnects are used to collect that money. If you look at our state of the utilities, we had 3,166 disconnections for the month of June, but we had almost 2,800 reconnections on that. The difference is some of those other people may literally be moving out and they left bills behind, and we end up with bad debts that everyone else has to pay. So we're doing the proper thing. We're doing it within best practices. We try to get better. We try to offer services, and I'll talk a little later about some of the things that GRU has done to make the world a better place for some of these customers. Let's see. The other thing I wanted to tell you was that we actually did price the third tranche of the natural gas prepayment. It came in at 46 cents. It was a little lower, but on average, we now have 51 cent discount on the approvals on the natural gas that the board set forth. Let's see, what else did we have? Oh, and today, actually, we met with TEA, went over the process moving forward. We're a partner with them. We're going to continue to get the fine service from them. And we have a bright future together. We're not moving away from them. We're just pulling out our equity and the guarantees. So I think that's all I had, unless there were some other questions.
No, thank you, Ed, because I was going to ask you about how we measured up to our peer agencies with disconnects. So thank you for providing that.
Too, and to be clear, some of the other agencies probably don't have like you were talking, the transient problem with college students leaving and stuff like that, so they may not have that to deal with that we do? Okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. You would think Tallahassee would have a little bit more of that. So we're going to dig into that. Catherine is the new Chief Customer Officer. She's working with Kanzan. We're getting a lot of energy directed toward reaching out into the community. We actually looked at a list of the latest customers we had that had a high ratio of energy usage to square footage. So we've taken those numbers. Carmen Burse is taking them, actually driving out to different houses, sending information out to customers saying, what can we do to help? Because something's awry here. And I'll talk about that a little bit later when I talk about LEAP Plus, because that's one of the shining stars that we have as an organization. And I took over having the video this time. It's not Debbie and Chad, so I'll have a video for you all.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the attorney comments.
So I'll let Derek add on, but in your presentation later on, our next item, we have a slide that Ed put together. I think it'll be easier for you all to get sort of a sense of the litigation from that, so I'll sort of defer until then.
Same. Seconded.
Is this silly business going on?
Silly business we got here.
Yeah, we need to stop the silly business.
Life's too short.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is business discussion items with GRU review. The recommendation is that no action is required by the board other than to listen and ask questions concerning the presentation.
There you go. Oh, I have the clicker. So yeah, I talked to the chair, and since we didn't have anything on there asking for approval, Chair Lawson thought it'd be a good idea to kind of go through a couple of the main areas of the organization and just give you all an update, just like we would at a normal board meeting, a business board meeting. So we put some things together. The first item is GRU people. And we've talked about the size of the organization, the vacancy rates. I want you all to know, well, this is a little hard to see again. Sorry about that. But back at the middle of 2022, we were sitting at about a 13% vacancy rate. That dropped down back in August of this past year to about 11%. And now in June, we're down under 8%. So I think we're seeing the fruits of bringing over an HR department that's focused solely on our organization. We're getting a lot of things done. We're filling positions across the organization. And we're trying to fill those positions of most urgent need, for us to provide the best services we can. So, when I saw these information on our reports, I wanted to share that with you folks. The next item is, this actually just gets into plain head counts. You can see back at the middle of 2022, we were up over 900 people in terms of budgeted FTEs. We were still down around, 800 employees. And then we had a vacancy rate that got us down to about 850 or more at that point. But what we've done is we've looked at the FTEs that are on the books, the authorized FTEs. And, part of that is losing some of the meter readers. It's going to AMI. Part of it is saying, okay, we're going to do business a little differently. Maybe we don't need these positions. Maybe we need to focus our efforts in some of the other areas. And so you can see now we're at about 879 authorized FTEs, far below where we were a couple years ago. And then considering after the vacancy rate, we have a budgeted vacancy rate. Business occurs. People come and go out of your organization. We're looking at somewhere around 826 people was our anticipated FTEs after the vacancies, and we're at 809. So we've been really in a sweet spot at between 800 and 810, actually for the year. And that really does my heart good. It's showing the effectiveness. I think it's a key performance indicator for the HR people organization that we're building. Then the other area I just wanted to talk about is we have plans, we have a budget, but then we have a change of plans. So one of the big change of plans was that the claims case for a GRU employee back in 2015 or 16 that T-boned another, it would be the plaintiff, it would be another individual. They took that case to claims court a claims case at the legislature, and they won an $11 million settlement. GRU has gotten that settlement back. The papers, we've paid it. That money came out of the electric fund. We think we have reserves that are there. I don't think anything has to happen at this point, but it will be consideration as we go through the rest of the year to see where those monies fall out and what we have to do as a mitigating circumstance for that. Secondly, the Kelly plant had a rough June. We had some combustion issues. Tom and his crew have been working night and day, to put that back to where it is running at its combined cycle, as well as its regular single cycle. And we had to go through several outages. He told you about the carbon monoxide over limit. We've had these issues solved at this point. We've had a great relationship with the Department of Environmental Protection. They've worked with us, and so next week we're going to be heading into some clear sailing with Kelly. One of the problems you have with having an older plant, not having the institutional knowledge that might be there at a GE or a Siemens or some of the original equipment manufacturers. We're looking to put a mitigation strategy together for that as part of our long-term strategy. It might involve developing some of our own in-house staff to fulfill that need, because you never know who you're going to get from a GE or Siemens. I mean, a lot of people are really good, but sometimes it's a crapshoot who's going to come there. They're seeing some systems that they wouldn't necessarily see in the rest of their time dealing with some of the newer units. And then I also have up there, I jumped the gun on my CEO comments. We got the last natural gas prepayment. It was on hold, and I was waiting for market conditions, and then between the time of the publishing and this, market conditions occurred, which is why we come back to the commission, sorry, folks.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Worst case
Why we come
scenario.
back to the directors and ask for approval with a set of parameters ahead of time so we can react to those market conditions. So we did, and we priced it at 46 cents. The other issue was the community. I'm running a series of fact or fiction articles in the Alachua Chronicle. Jen Cabrera was kind enough to say, you know, I've watched some of your meetings, and there's a lot of fiction that is being promoted. You know, if you want to set the record straight, you have the opportunity. And you can see that I've had a series of those in the Alachua Chronicle. I've had some nice feedback on that, and I think it just gets the discussion going so that people get to hear, you know, us at a different venue, talking about the issues that they need to understand. The other thing is I passed out some of these, we have a summer campaign where we reach out to our customers and talk about some of the things they can do to make themselves have a better summer, reduce the use of our product. And Dave Warm, I got to give him some really special kudos. He reached out to the artist community in Gainesville, and there's a substantial group of artists in the Gainesville community, and they developed these little postcards that on the back of them, you know, it's basically greetings from Gainesville, and they did a little artist rendition. I mean, you know, gratis for us. And on the back, they tell us about, you know, what they do, you know, to reduce the electricity usage and things like that. A couple of them, I think there's a duplication where a couple of them basically said, jump into the springs. That's going to cool you off. But I just thought it was really a nice thing, and to me, it's pure Gainesville, you know, to have the artists involved, talking about this type of thing. So I'm hoping that gets a little bit of attention, and you know, for the artists as well as GRU, and we're working with them. The other thing is, I guess in another couple of weeks, I'll be speaking at the Florida Municipal Electric Association conference in where's it, Ponte Vedra. I'll have a little fireside chat and talk about the benefit of municipal power, local municipal power, which is what, under the board, this is. Despite what the referendum says, there's not a change from non-local municipal power to local municipal power. It's just governed through the authority at this point. That's one of the points that I want to make to the board, and I also want to, you know, talk about the lessons learned in my time at GRU, working for, on one hand, a commission, on another hand, the authority, and talk about the fact that the one thing I've learned is you gotta listen to the customers. You can have all the ideas you want, but you have to listen to the customers, and what they want is affordable, competitive, safe, reliable, environmentally friendly utility services. They don't care about general fund transfer. They don't care about all this other stuff. They want to know they have value. They want to know when they flip on a switch or turn on a valve, they're going to get the product that they want. So I gave you a little preview of what I'm going to talk about. Then the other thing is, this is kind of a landmark year. Customer First continues with LEAP Plus. LEAP was a program we started somewhere about 18 years ago, in which we looked at low-income customers and saw what we could do to bring more efficiency to their home. Because we recognize that most people that use a lot of our product don't have a lot of efficiency in their HVAC systems and their hot water heaters, all the things that make it a double whammy for them. I mean, it's hard. And then they can't afford to upgrade their system. So GRU is here to help. So over those 18 years, we will hit a milestone of spending $10 million for folks in our community. No questions asked, getting contractors to come in and upgrade those systems. And we've retrofitted 2,500 homes. And I thought the 2,500 homes was interesting because, you know, we talk about the 3,100 or 3,000 or 2,800 homes or customers that are disconnected. We've almost done an equal amount over that period of time trying to ensure those people don't get disconnected. Nobody hears about that. We have these meetings where people come up in public and they talk about what we don't do. Well, this is what we do. So with that, can we shoot a video up there? I mean, I could wait to the end. Oh, there you go. Get that volume up.
And what was it like in the summer before?
Hot. Hot, hot. I got a card in the mail. And then the neighbor, she's a nurse, lives down the street. Got a hold of her, and she helped me fill out the papers. Then Hope got a hold of me and told me they were going to come out and put air in. I'm going, you're kidding me. I know you're kidding me. Well, there was a 1,500 BTU unit in the window, and it went out. Then I had a small one in my bedroom, and then there's a small one up there, but not enough to cool the whole house. Hoggle put the AC in that I loved. Very friendly, cleaned up after themselves. Just, I have nothing but praise for them. My life has changed. Like this morning, I just feel so good. And it was cold to me, I was cold. So I come in, tap that little button. Here comes the heat. Everyone I dealt with was great. Nothing but smiles, and my hair just, oh. I didn't know I was going to go through it. It sort of shocked me, you know, to get a gift like that. It's just been wonderful.
What does LEAP stand for?
Low Income Energy Efficiency Program.
Well, I definitely qualify. Central went out, it's been 3 summers and 3 winters. Boy, in the summer, it was brutal. That's why I had fans everywhere. I got some bids on my own, but it was $8,000, $9,000. And I just didn't have it. So I went ahead and applied. Put out 3 bids. And Birdie's the one that got the bid. And they were great. They inspected and cleaned the grates and everything. Took out my old unit and put in the new one. They showed up without a crane. And I said, how you getting it up there? And they took it up a ladder. One guy behind and one a rope, and took it up the ladder. They were up on the roof and it was storming. And they worked through it. It's 75 right now. It's comfortable, isn't it? It's quiet. You can't even hear the thing. I haven't even switched it over to AC. It's on heat. It's a very pleasant experience for me. And I am a big GRU fan. Having been relatively well off in the old days, after 2 marriages, that kind of.
Thanks, Ed, that was great.
Yeah, you know, you don't hear about it much, but when we actually had a meeting a couple months ago, because every year our contractors have to come in and they have to listen to us talk about what the rules are about this, how they have to, you know, stay on top of things. So we bring them in for a lunch, then they're captive. And Dave had put this together for them, and I went, wow, this is pretty nice for the board to hear. And then had to get at the back of the line with Debbie and Chad with all their videos, and so I finally got a chance to actually show it to you. So could I get back on the other? Oh, do I have to? There we go. So the other thing is projects, and I was going to talk about, the stuff that, the big equipment and things like that, but it struck me, the board probably needs to be aware that we're going through a lot of work right now in upgrading our software systems. We have financial management information systems that is an upgrade to the previous one. We're going to have it work. What is the term they use? They're going to have GUIs in it, which allows you to click and to move things around more easily. It will provide us much more flexibility in interacting with all the other systems that we have. We're an SAP shop, so our other things are SAP as well, so we have to have that upgraded to that level. Customer information systems getting upgraded at the same time. Success factors with the human resources information system, another one that's going on at the same time. The customer portal, we're working now toward an arrangement with a SEW and Vertex One to work together to have that implemented at the same time. Then we'll be able to have a portal in which customers can see a lot more information. Our customer service reps can have that access to that information at the same time. We can create a better customer experience for all the folks that are out there. There won't be so much time wasted going between screens. So it's just better customer experience. And we have up to 100 people involved across the utility in working on this, kind of beyond their day job. So there's a lot of work and effort, and I have to really congratulate the folks that are doing all that they can to make this, a better organization with these software upgrades.
At the last meeting, Ed, you mentioned some frustration with the customer portal and the vendors. Did you wrangle the vendors?
Yeah, I think there have been a lot of people helping with the wrangling, and SEW and Vertex One have found a pathway to move forward with the use of some APIs that convert that data into one system or the other. It's about proprietary software and not allowing people to get into their own code, and they're competitors of each other. So I get why there's, a pushback on their part. But at a certain point, neither one of you get in the job, and you're all going to end up out on the street if you don't do this the right way. So I think they got the message.
Do you have a question?
No, it's the same question.
Yeah. I wrote them basically, this ship has sailed email and said, I don't care how you work it out, you got to work it out.
Where are we with getting the meters installed, the automated meters? Have we got them all in yet?
Well, it's 100%, ostensibly 100% on the electric side. Tom, do you have the latest numbers on the meters?
Yeah, they're about, I think 89% on the gas, about 86 on the water, and all the large water meters are out there, so there's like 17,000 more meters to go to complete, but we're well on track to be fully deployed by the end of the year.
So we're probably somewhere in the single digits away from getting to 100%. But that's not going to stop us from what we're doing here. We're still moving forward with the portal for the customers that we now have. And what I'm excited about is, this whole AMI will also be able to help some of the bigger customers that we have to spend so much manual time with, that have all these move-ins and move-outs so that they can get, more efficient, effective, data for themselves. And then we're dealing with the lawyers. I save them.
So excited.
I save them for the end. So there's basically four components the way I look at it. The lawyers are talking about GRUA 1, 2, and different things like that. The first thing is that Obviously, we're appealing Judge Wright's decision on May 9th, or 19th. We filed that motion back on June 4th. The city made a motion to expedite it, and I think somebody brought that up in one of the comments. And the reason that we're not, we replied actually today against the motion to expedite it because it didn't give us time to solve it. And it was a creation of the city. The city decided, well, we want to expedite it because we want to move ahead and do these other things without giving us our due process in this whole avenue. The second one is the emergency motion for stay in Judge Wright's court. We filed in circuit court for the order to stay back in June 18th, and the city filed their oppositional brief, and we've actually just responded today to that oppositional brief. And the lawyers can tell you what Judge Wright's next steps will be. I'm just communicating this to you. There was this other petition for writ of quo warranto, I can't even say it, by Foltz Murmur. You probably saw it on Channel 20 where he withdrew based on the silliness of our lawyers. I think it was the effectiveness of our lawyers. Let me say that. The effectiveness of our lawyers we were able to get that dismissed. They voluntarily dismissed, but I think they saw the writing on the wall. The fourth one is that we are working on a forthcoming lawsuit that you authorized back on June 11th. So that will be, stacked on top of the other ones that we're looking here. And let me be real clear to the folks that are out there and to the board. We're doing this because House Bill 1645 is the law. It's the law. And it was voted upon by elected officials at the state legislature and signed by the governor. And we're here, until told otherwise, to protect House Bill 1645, and in doing so, as the rating agencies have shown, and as the bills have shown, and performance is showing, this is a good thing for the community, our customers, and everyone involved. So we're going to continue the fight, hopefully with the authorities' blessing all along the way. So that's my update.
Any questions for Ian?
I just say it was disappointing to see the latest city commission meeting because they have no plan for a budget. Their plan is to take back GRU and raid the piggy bank. They utterly had no solutions on how to budget for anything other than raid the piggy bank again. So it was disappointing.
Well, you might want to check the Alachua Chronicle because I have a little something on that on this coming Sunday on the next series. Because, let's face it, GRU is paying the city less money. But it's not like they don't have less money. They've made it up with property taxes and very, very little expenditure cuts. So you're not getting the full story from the city commission, unfortunately. And I wish that there'd be a little bit of understanding of that.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I want to add just a couple of things to give the board sort of a general overview, 10,000-foot view of where the litigation is going and sort of what the arguments are, because there's a lot of cases going on and there's also a lot of arguments and pleadings and they're not all super clear and no one wants to read 10,000 pages of legalese. So the appeal of Judge Wright's order for the first DCA, that's really our substantive issues. That's us saying we really think on count one, the law is on our side. And we'd like for the first DCA to take a look at that specific issue because we believe that we should have gotten a different ruling. Then we have also going on, and the city filed their motion to expedite on June 17th. They wanted this to go very quickly. They say, hey, we've started all of these processes for there to be a referendum, and so we should hurry up and get this appeal over with. And our argument is essentially you can do it right or you can do it fast, but you can't have both. And we'd prefer to do it correctly and get, allow the first DCA to really look into these issues so that we're not constantly in a state of flux and everyone's arguing forevermore. We want to make sure that we get it right. We filed our response to their motion on June 2nd, essentially saying this is really kind of a problem of the city's own creation, and it shouldn't, an emergency created by them is not an emergency for us. And so we need time, and there's time in an appellate review process for a reason, because it's complicated legal issues, there's lots of briefs, there's lots of back and forth. And the first DCA deserves time to be able to take a look at those. So that's essentially our position on the substantive review with the first DCA of Judge Wright's opinion. Then in front of Judge Wright, we also have a motion for stay that's pending. Under the rules of appellate procedure, when we filed our notice of appeal on June 4th, our position is, under the rules, we are granted an automatic stay. Essentially what that means is there's a provision in the appellate rules that say if a governmental agency appeals a decision of a court, there's an automatic stay that is in place until that appeal is resolved. Our argument on behalf of the board is that that prohibits the city from doing exactly what they then did, which is on June 17th, moving forward with their decision to go ahead and make a new referendum and litigate this issue again, sort of in the court of public opinion. So we filed a motion for stay, which essentially says we already have a stay. The city is doing X, Y, and Z, and we'd really like this court to weigh in and say, no, there's a stay in place. This is what that stay is going to prohibit. So that's what that motion is sort of on. It's more of a procedural, what's going to happen in the interim while we're litigating this substantive issue. And then we have the Foltz Murmur case, the writ of quo warranto. Essentially the argument that was being made is, hey, these parties weren't subject to and weren't parties to that first case between the city of Gainesville and GRU. And so they shouldn't be required to be under that decision. We did provide case law to the opposing attorneys that indicate that, I think sort of commonsensically, if you live in a city and your city litigates something on your behalf, you as an individual cannot relitigate that. Obviously, I think the city of Miami would be in complete chaos if that were not a rule, or any of these big cities would be sort of in a state of disarray if that weren't the case. And so then that was dismissed at that time. So I want to give you a sort of sense. We have a request for a hearing on our motion to stay in front of Judge Wright, so we can get that resolved as quickly as humanly possible. We are still waiting on a ruling from the first DCA on the motion to expedite filed by the city. Until then, we're running under regular procedures, so our brief will be due in August. And then their reply brief will be due thereafter. If they decide to reply the next day, then it can move forward pretty quickly after that. But they do have some time to be able to file their reply. So I'm happy to answer any more in-depth questions, but I sort of wanted you to know what you are arguing through us.
Thanks, Kirsten. Thank you.
I do want to mention one other thing. When I mentioned that I was sending the articles in to the Alachua Chronicle, I reached out to Jen Cabrera, and I sent those to her asking if she would publish those. And after I had published a few more, she asked if I had another one. And I said, yes, I do. So I want to set the record straight. I was sending them to her.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, excuse me, is director comments.
I'm going to start at this end. First off, I appreciate Mr. Conish coming up here, being concerned for our citizens and everything. I can tell you, GRU still does free energy audits. I had one done in my house about 2 years ago, and they said, oh, come out with the temperature gun checking around your doors. Hey, you need to redo the seals on your doors. My utility bill went down, not dramatically, but it went down $9 the following month just by me replacing door seals. So that was about a $35 cost to me, but saving $9 over a year, I'm making that money up hand over fist now, years later. So if you're not taking advantage of those free energy audits, the people are very friendly. They look at all of your appliances, your air conditioning unit, And like I said, taking a temperature gun around, and they look in your attic and shoot the temperature gun to see if your ductwork is even appropriate and your insulation is appropriate in your attic. So I heavily encourage people to reach out to GRU customer service and schedule these. Get these individuals into your homes. Yes, some of the repairs are not cheap, but that's where the LEAP program comes in. And then you can apply to have your hot water heater, your air conditioning unit. And I have friends out there that don't make much money, that are single, and they couldn't afford to do that, and they've gotten air conditioners and water heaters out of that program. So if you meet the criteria and you're low income, you need to take advantage of these programs. And other than that, Ed, still great work going on a lot of these projects. I stop on occasion and talk to the gentlemen. It's funny because they wonder who I am at first, but then they praise all of us and the work that we're doing. I have not had one employee say, this authority board is for the birds, you guys are stupid, you're not doing your job. They all are very appreciative of the work that we're doing, so I wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of that as well.
Thank you.
The only comment I had was for Jim Conish, who left. I don't appreciate a lot of things that he says because he's misleading a lot of times. And I don't know, he's just trying to stir the pot. Whatever else, I'm not really sure, so. That's all I got. But he left, so.
Yeah, well, I'd just like to follow up. I hope we can turn the corner on arguing about how we keep books and budgeting and stuff like that, you know, and turn to some helpful suggestions about what GRKU can do in the future, and what people would like us to see. I mean, somewhere down the line, we're gonna have to have discussions about, you know, helping the city with projects and stuff like that, once we get our debt under control, of course. So it'd be nice to, you know, to start turning the discussion that way.
And I would conclude, Ed, congratulations to you and your team on the recent Moody's evaluation. And I know it's a complex subject, but, you know, if in one of your articles, you could connect why is our bond rating important? It has a direct impact on what our customers pay. And if we see another downgrade, how many millions of dollars that will cost the utility, which ultimately all of our customers would have to pick up. And in that most recent rating review, they commented on the consistency of the current leadership and the positive impact it's having. So it's a really good story, and I think if there's a way we can explain that to the public that's digestible, that would be great.
I will do my best. I will tell you that in working with the folks at FMEA and those folks, they're watching what's going on here, and they appreciate, you know, the turnaround for GRU. And I've had some really interesting discussions with some of the leaders of JEA and other folks who really do espouse the independent board concept and the authority. So getting a lot of support from that. And I want you all to know that there may be opportunities for you in the future to talk to some of those folks that are on that board. Maybe, you know, set up a joint conference or something like that.
Otherwise, that concludes our comments, and we stand adjourned. Thank you.